So before I speak on Dhamma, I'd like to pay respects to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammam Sangham Namasami. The Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, great teachings from the Lord Buddha. Kāyānupassanā section, we're observing the body in all different ways. The cemetery or charnel ground observations. The best thing I can do for those who may not be so familiar with the sutta is to read a little bit from the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta to impart what it is that this teaching is about. So this is another way the Buddha has given us to consider the body, contemplate this body. As though one were to see a corpse thrown aside in a charnel ground, 1, 2, or 3 days dead, bloated, livid, and oozing matter. We can compare this same body with that. This body too is of the same nature. It will be like that. It is not exempt from that fate. In this way, we can abide observing the body as a body, internally and externally, arising and passing, abiding independently, not clinging to anything in this world. This is how we abide, contemplating the body as a body. And the Buddha goes on describing for us the various stages of decay, the changes that happen in the body, this body, after death. He says, again, as though we were to see a corpse thrown aside in the charnel ground, being devoured by crows, hawks, vultures, dogs, jackals, or various kinds of worms. We can compare this same body with that. This body too is of the same nature. It will be like that. It is not exempt from that fate. The Buddha goes on to describe a skeleton then will remain with flesh and blood held together by sinews, which becomes a fleshless skeleton, smeared with blood, held together with sinews, which becomes a skeleton without flesh and blood, still held together by sinews, and lastly, disconnected bones, scattered in all directions, a hand bone there, a foot bone here a shin bone, there a thigh bone, here a hip bone, there a back bone, here a rib, there a breast bone, here an arm bone, there a shoulder bone, a neck bone, a jaw bone, a tooth over there, and here the skull. In this same way, we can consider this body too is of the same nature. It will be like that. It is not exempt from that fate. And finally, the Buddha describes, after some time has passed, then the bones will be bleached white, the color of shells. Bones heaped up, more than a year old. Bones rotted and crumbled to dust. And in the same way, we can consider that these bodies have the same fate. They will, at some point in the future, be just like that, until there's absolutely nothing left at all. So these charnel ground contemplations, there are 9 different stages of the description that the Buddha gives of the changes that happen after death. And I guess in the time of the Buddha, it must have been fairly common that bodies would be discarded in that way, left out in nature. I know in the Tibetan tradition, they have the sky burial, don't they? And the body is kind of chopped up and put out for the vultures and other beings to devour it, which is really sensible when you think about it. It's a really good gift to nature to let the body be food, just as we spend our lives eating all sorts of other beings, even if we're vegetarian. Then when the body passes away, how nice, how generous to share it as food for other beings. But mostly we don't do that. We burn bodies, don't we? Or we bury them in the ground, which is another way of doing that. We cremate, we bury, we have different customs, but presumably at the time of the Buddha, there would be these places, and actually the monks could go there, people could go and meditate. In Thailand, we have stories of monks not so very long ago going to the charnel grounds to contemplate the bodies that are left there before they're cremated. And people also, of course, attend open-air cremations in Asian countries, and they have the chance to see the bodies burning up and so on. So these ways of contemplating would have been very doable at the time of the Buddha. And for us today, it's not so easy, especially in the West, because often these processes are kind of very discreetly done. And we don't like to really look at or be around dead bodies. And in some ways that's natural, and also maybe we miss out to some extent, don't we? Because we kind of hide these things away, and we don't have the chance then to do this kind of contemplation or to have these kind of experiences. So this is a really valuable teaching here in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta for us to consider, really trying to bring these contemplations home. So this body, this one is aging, this one is going to go through death, and it will decay and disappear eventually in just these ways. And why would we want to think about that instead of just being in the present moment? Present moment awareness, is that not enough? Present moment awareness is wonderful, but we can actually benefit, the Buddha's telling us, from considering the body in all these different ways. What is the benefit of these charnel ground or these cemetery contemplations? There are so many benefits. We can try it out for ourselves and see. There's a strong encouragement when we consider the aging and death of the body to let go of identification with it. There is the sense of the kind of repulsiveness of the body, isn't there? When we think about dead things, consider them. The mind actually wants to sort of shy away. I notice that myself. Don't really want to go there. Also, for me personally, to consider this body aging, there can be a feeling of great sadness. It's kind of tragic. And yet, that feeling of sadness and sorrow for this body is actually surely an indicator that there's attachment. There's attachment to this form. And so when we contemplate the aging and the death of the body, we get a chance, we get the opportunity to focus on, to see, to feel out, don't we, our attachment to this body, which is surely something we want to be free from. We want to investigate, we want to understand. And in investigating and understanding this, we can let go. So the sense of identification with the body is a source of great suffering for us. If we don't work with this and appreciate this issue while we're alive, while we're well, while we're healthy, while we're young, then as we get older, and particularly when it comes to the time of death, then it's going to be very traumatic for us. Can we spare ourselves that trauma? Can we allow ourselves to prepare? So one of the other benefits of these kind of contemplations, we can call them charnel ground contemplations, we can call them death contemplations. One of the big benefits is this sense of disidentification, and also the opportunity to prepare, to be ready, to have a curiosity about the whole process. It can be an opportunity to develop this enlightenment factor, can't it, of Dhamma Vichaya, investigation of Dhamma. If we put this to the fore, if we have this as our priority, then we become more curious than afraid, don't we? We're more interested than wishing to turn away from this reality. And we're, instead of facing trauma, we're going to be deepening our practice, taking the opportunity that death gives us to really very fully and completely let go. There's also, for me, a big benefit here in this type of contemplation of death, and also the process of bodily change all the way through old age to death and beyond, to the decay of the body. It is a great remedy for sense desire, isn't it? Just like the 31, 32 parts of the body contemplation, where we divide and dissect the body up into all its components and just look at them all individually and assess. What's this really like? What's this kidney really like? Is it mine? Do I want to identify with it? Is it beautiful? And so forth. In the same way, when we consider the aging and death and decay of the body, we can really work with very skillfully with sense desire and see right through it. Let it go. It helps us to calm down if lust and desire and passion are issues for us. And there's wonderful stories and poems from the monks and nuns at the time of the Buddha, many references to the body and the suffering that we have when we identify with the body, and ways in which arahants became arahants through contemplating death, contemplating corpses in the charnel grounds, and recognizing the peril, in a way. The peril, not the peril of dying, not the peril of death, but the peril of attachment to the body. Death is natural, of course. Death, in a way, doesn't exist for us. If we don't identify with this body, then death is not an issue for us. It's not a problem for us. If we don't identify with the 5 khandhas, I should say. If we don't identify with the body, we can be a lot more peaceful around death, a lot more curious, a lot more ready to open to the next thing, and the next thing, the next moment, and the next moment. If we can disidentify with all 5 khandhas, so that by that I mean the body and also the mind, then there's nothing to fear, because we understand that there is no death. There is nothing that dies, because nothing was ever constructed. If there's no constructions, then there's nothing to die. And to realize this is to appreciate the deathless, isn't it? And we're all moving in that direction. And these types of contemplations take us there. So to see where the mind wants to shy away from the truth of death, of decay, of aging. These contemplations are to show us where there's anything that's still dukkha for us, anything that's still holding on, anything that's still identifying with this body and with this mind. So we have a chance to prepare. That's the other thing I feel very much is of great benefit in these charnel ground contemplations, to really come home to our situation here, to prepare, to live in such a way that we are ready. What does that do to the mind? To consider that death could come at any time. The Buddha invited us not only to do these charnel ground contemplations, but also to again and again reflect that this breath could be our last, that this mouthful of food could be our last. So the imminence of death is something also that the Buddha really encouraged us to develop. So as Buddhists, we are working with, appreciating and letting go of that natural reluctance to remember, to consider, to appreciate our trajectory here, the trajectory of this body, of this life. And we get to open up to the bigger picture, don't we? The bigger picture, the gigantic planetary recycling plant. We've got quite good, or to some extent, we've got good at recycling things, haven't we? So we have the concept of, I use this thing, I put it somewhere, and then it gets reused. It gets reformed in a way that it can have another use, another purpose. I'm not just chucking it over my shoulder and forgetting all about it. Actually, we still behave like adolescents mostly and do just that. But there is a little bit of recycling that happens, and a little bit of care nowadays, isn't there, with all the stuff that we use. Just appreciating that these bodies are exactly the same. This body, this form is going through this particular process of being a body, and then death will come soon enough, and it will turn into something else. It will break up, and it will be nourishment, and it will be kind of moving into other forms over time. And how wonderful, how natural, how ludicrous to consider that it might be the same for any two moments together. And how ludicrous to feel badly about its breaking up, really. We can consider in this way, this letting go. Even if we haven't let go of this body and identification with this body, we can certainly recognize it when we do these charnel ground contemplations. See what they bring up for you. When we consider that death could come at any time, how does that feel? What's the feeling? Is there a feeling of fear? Is there a feeling of grief? Is there a great big no, a feeling of resistance? This is our Dhamma then. This is the food for contemplation. This is what we need to consider. It's bringing it home, the reality of this process. And as we do this, from day to day, over months, weeks, years, over a lifetime, we can really notice that we get to make peace with this process. And it's almost like stepping back from the individual, which is always a tragedy. The individual, the realm of me. It's always it's a story with a very sad ending. But we get to step back from that and we get to see the bigger picture. The inevitability of death, death leading to birth, death and birth, death and birth. This incredible process of change. Can we flow with that? Instead of resisting that, we get to flow with that, don't we? The more we can work through the resistances, the fears, and the holding on to this body, this mind. So I really encourage everybody, to make much of these teachings of the Lord Buddha, make much of the contemplations on the body parts, the 31, 32 body parts, the contemplations on the elements, breaking up the body into its constituent 4 great elements or 5 great elements. And these charnel ground contemplations, which are often kind of skimmed over, not considered very much because, well, it's not like that anymore. We don't have those charnel grounds. We don't get to see corpses yet. We don't need to. It's actually quite good to seek out such opportunities, but we don't need to do that. We just want to bring these contemplations to this form and allow the imagination to come in to just to the extent that we're allowing ourselves to relate to the reality of this body through time and allow that to inform us. So these are just some reflections on body awareness and charnel ground contemplations and how we can kind of integrate the two, to make it real for us. So it's not something out there. It's actually quite helpful as well, just to point out that yes, it's good too, as the Buddha told us in the Satipaṭṭhāna Sutta, to consider this body and to consider all the other bodies, all the other beings. And yes, we can bring this in also, because actually it's almost more natural for the mind when we consider death and decay to think of others, because we may have experienced the death of a loved one or a pet or, a family member. And often the mind will actually kind of almost strangely prefer to be with that than to be with the possibility of this one's demise. But actually the Buddha encouraged both, didn't he? So to really bring these contemplations home for this body, but also, we can reflect and we can learn so much from our experience of loss of the other, death of the other. There are some practitioners who will use, any sight, any experience of death in nature around us, small beings, animals, plants, flowers on the shrine, and so forth, all these things. Constantly, if we look around, we're seeing dead things, we're seeing things decaying. To use those experiences as well to keep coming home to this aspect of the recycling process. And when we experience death of loved ones, how powerful this is for us, emotionally, physically, psychologically, on every level. The impact can be very great, can't it? And all of this is an opportunity for us to investigate Dhamma with great compassion, you know, but also with a willingness to understand dukkha, the dukkha here, and in understanding the dukkha here, to allow for the letting go, you know, to disidentify, to let go of our attachments, to free the heart, to free up. These spiritual opportunities, these experiences, these beings who are our teachers, who are our Devadutas, who are the heavenly messengers for us, those who die before we do, those who get sick, those who are aging around us. Let's open our eyes, open our hearts, and really see, empathize with, compassionately observe, and taking it all in. We can get wise before we get old. You know, we don't have to be getting old ourselves right now. Well, we're all getting old, of course, but we can feel when we're young that, you know, this is all very far in the future somewhere, you know. It's wise. It's really a very good idea for even the young ones to open up to this, open up to these contemplations. And it's interesting how for young people it's even more difficult to work with the resistance that can come up when we contemplate death. All the more beneficial, you know, all the more powerful as a practice then. But I'm aware of this. I'm aware that I used to get school visits when I was in monasteries in the UK, and the kids would come and we'd take them into the chapel of rest. And sometimes there would be a body in the chapel of rest, not very often actually, but there was always the skeleton. And we, you know, use the skeleton as a sort of springboard for some Dhamma teachings, and start to talk a little bit about aging, death and decay. And you could literally see teenagers, school kids just backing off, recoiling in horror. And you'd have to gauge, you know, how much could be said that would be useful. And then it was inevitably not very much, just a little touching in, but how valuable. Particularly asking the question, anybody in this class, anybody in this group, has anybody lost a family member? Has anybody experienced death in their family? You know? And inevitably, you know, a few hands would go up. And a sense of, that's good for that group to recognize this. Because kids often, if somebody has passed away, they don't have a chance to really process it because nobody wants to know. You know, it's not something that the other kids will talk about very much. And it may be that the adults around them also don't want to talk about it with them. I think they're protecting the child, perhaps. But what children really need when they've lost a brother or a sister or a parent is a chance to express how it is, isn't it? And the chance to be heard and to know that perhaps others have had the same experience. So kids would put their hands up and they'd be looking at each other, and the sense of relief and the sense of connection would be quite palpable. So it's never too early to open the heart to the life cycle, the birth, youth, middle age, aging and death. And it doesn't matter how young a person is, the Buddha's teachings are helpful, even in this regard, to be able to just open and not be afraid, isn't it, to talk about or to acknowledge that loss is around us, loss is everywhere, people are dying all the time. So, yep, it's good to I would say bring these contemplations here and really make this body our main kind of lens through which we can contemplate death and decay in life and decay after passing away. Imagine these bodies, imagine their trajectory. Let it be a source of rich Dhamma for us, and also consider all that we see of death, all that we experience of death around us, and let it be not merely a source of grief and sadness and loss, which of course it is, that's part of it, quite naturally, but also, and more importantly, a source of wisdom, of compassion, of liberation for the heart. Everyone. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So thank you everybody for your patient listening, and I'm now going to stop the live stream. Say goodbye to everybody watching on YouTube.